All right. Clearly, still some teething issues when it comes to the technology, but that's okay. We're going to try and get better at it. You have to start somewhere. So we're back live again.
So I was wondering if it was using that normal text.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. Which is in charge.
Deathwatch maneuvering into position.
Appointment to fire with the.
That makes it move again.
So redeploy. Yeah, he's Agents of Vect.
So it doesn't have to be
So basic. Yeah. All that happens is the stratagem doesn't work. You don't spend the CP. He spends 4 as a result.
Don't mind that because I'm not.
Yeah, but you also did the ground.
No, I don't want to
I think it's
this is just going to change.
unless you have a spell or some scratch.
Oh dear, you gotta love technology. We are slowly but surely shoring up the some of the hurdles we've faced with technology over the past couple of years in regards to being able to bring content to you from events. The first major hurdle was the laptop, and the new one is performing marvelously. It certainly looks like the biggest issue we have now is actually the connectivity in regards to being able to access consistent internet. Now, that's nothing new for any Australian, really, but we certainly need to look at getting a dedicated Wi-Fi dongle or something that I can plug into the laptop that'll let me have a dedicated internet service. Yoda says we had a lot of issues streaming mass from the church initially. Yeah, look, I mean, the Australian internet isn't exactly anything to write home about, let's be honest. So if we can come up with, I'll go and get myself a 4G hotspot that I can plug in and leave attached to the laptop. I think that'll hopefully resolve a lot of the issues. At least that way my phone's not trying to synchronize other things, and it'll give us the ability to have a dedicated port of data for it. We actually did have one at one point there, and for whatever reason, it was loaned and whatnot out to another family member who needed it more. So now it's time to, although that was, I think, a 3G device. So we'll see. But I appreciate that this is the first time we've really tried to do something like this live, and I mean, we've tried it a couple of times over the years with mixed success, and I think this is the most successful because the laptop is coping with it just fine. We've found the next narrowing point in the chain. Beats Twitch. Yeah, look, I haven't had any good experiences with trying to stream to Twitch. YouTube seems to work pretty well. It's pretty intuitive and works pretty straightforwardly. So I know that's not a word, but that's what I'm using. And in the meantime, we'll continue to muck about with OBS in the background so that when we can stream, we've got some header cards and stuff where you can put army lists and score sheets and that sort of stuff up. But as an exercise in testing, I think it's worked pretty well today. It certainly proved the issues from game one this morning were around Facebook rather than any of the connectivity or anything else, because Facebook was dropping me consistently all morning with game one. And then as soon as I moved to YouTube for game two, we ran just over 3 hours long for that entire game without an issue. So yeah, I'm pretty pleased, all things considered. So here come the rest of the Deathwatch. There's 2 kill teams being deployed there from the looks. And the watch commander, watch captain or watch master? Watch master. With the giant spear.
Scary.
So we did have a Vect deny there for the Blood Angels Smash captain.
Kept him out of range.
Buys Dan precious time to keep shooting. He needs it. What's going to be quite interesting, though, is how, now that obviously all the Deathwatch are deployed, whether or not using those characters in the backfield to screen the Deathwatch was a sensible call. Because it's at least 2 turns of movement before any of them are making combat. So... Oh, yeah. We do have a situation with the Dreadnought and the Helm of Spite being a potential problem. So you're having advice sent through Jordan saying the eyes are the weak points for the Eldar, so go for them. We actually have someone who's quite anti-Xenos in the chat, I believe, so... It's funny, I was saying in one of the early games, we've had 3 pools of 8 in the heats leading up to this event with no Drukhari of any sort. And then because this is the end of 8th edition and we wanted to make sure that we kept the event interesting, we didn't require the patrons to run the lists they ran in the heats in the final. And Dan ran Death Guard to make the finals and then has shown up today with Drukhari. These guys are the only 2 guys undefeated going into round 3, and obviously this is the top table, the deciding table. So,
Sorry, yeah. Oh, you still got Wings of Sanguinius, that one. Yes.
So this is was that quickening, Jordan?
No, that was a smite.
Oh, it's a smite.
Nope, you got Wings of Sanguinius and
So the Void Raven did take 3 damage. Is that denied? So that was the Helm of Spite.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, go for it.
And it also should be pointed out, Dan, that you don't get to roll the damage. It's his psycho because he has to declare it. He takes D3 mortal wounds and then he allocates the damage if he dies. So he will get to re-roll he can CP the damage he takes from perils if he chooses.
Okay.
It's his roll, not yours. I know a lot of people will do it just to, it's kind of a fun thing to share with an opponent, but.
I can re-deny if you want me to. I should have asked if you wanted to.
I think Dan was just overexcited about the possibility.
Re-roll it. You gonna re-roll it? So you're gonna re-roll the 4 and I'll re-roll the 5.
So it's a 9.
So I got 10. Unless you want to re-roll.
So Wings goes off.
So close.
So it's unfortunate with the camera angle. I've got to go and get a USB extender, and I'll definitely have to organise to bring a frame with me for the next event, so that we can get the whole table in. What you can't see is just underneath the 2 Void Ravens, there is a Librarian Dreadnought, and you can see the Deathwatch Librarian with jump pack just there.
Is it a bubble from the base for an aircraft explosion, or is it like a cylinder straight up?
It's measured base to base.
Okay, yeah. So it has to be good.
So they go the explosions.
Well, no, you don't have to measure base to, like direct base to base.
So I'm involved.
No, well, no, it's a 6-inch blast radius.
6 inch. Oh, it is 6 inch.
Yeah,
It's-
but it's 6 inch.
They're 3.
From the base.
Yeah, but it's 3 inches up. So you measure a direct line between the base and there, and that's not 6 inches. Like, it's not more than 6 inches.
Yeah, but if diameter is 6 inches.
I'm gonna do
Vertical.
I don't understand what you're saying.
You measure vertically. Yeah.
You're literally measuring a direct diagonal between the two bases. Yeah. So so what's just killed the Void Raven?
Nothing yet.
Nothing yet. Oh, he's trying to decide if he's going to die from the blast. Obviously, with that dreadnought.
And then I'm going to do
Yeah, it's a 6-inch blast of D3 mortal wounds. So on the flying dreadnought there, Gareth, we actually had the dreadnought auto destroyed in the heats because he flew to the top of the ruins and then failed to cast it and was destroyed. So flying dreadnoughts are fun, but they can end up in illegal positions, which makes it very awkward. I think there we go. That's the Void Raven dead. Obviously didn't explode.
I wish it did.
I think it was kind of the beginning of the
Well, I'm just going
Oh, 10, sorry.
Yeah, we also had a situation with the dreadnought in the round 1 today where he ended up on top of a ruin with the dreadnought. Thankfully remembered to move it in the movement phase because the spell runs your psychic phase to your following psychic phase. And in the case in the heats, he forgot to move it in the movement phase and then got to the psychic phase and failed to cast. Whereas in game 1 today, he was able to move it before he had to cast it again. So it was on terra firma, so that when he failed to cast, it wasn't an issue.
Only one win. Should have jumped the ball. All right. Then we'll go with
Yeah, I know.
I can hear it. Then I'll go with.
So the closest
this one.
I'll roll Stormbolt.
I'll do this one first. Everything's going well.
You gotta love hotspots. My phone's just giving me a data warning. That's just great. We finally get it working, and now we've got a data warning. So this is now a bunch of Stormbolt of Fire coming in. I believe this is at one of the Venoms. Unfortunately for the Deathwatch, the Venoms being dedicated transports makes it really awkward to shoot at because they don't get any benefits from dedicated transports.
Slightly out of range from my West Run.
I'm shooting AP 2 and 5. How many?
6.
Oh, there wasn't a single one in there.
Then we'll go with
just one. Just one.
Sorry, the missile launcher.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9.
The rerolling misses.
No, it's a yes.
Maybe 2.
Range is only plus the doctor. I rolled a frag cannon out of it.
3 says explode. The rest of it no exploding.
Unfortunately, he does mortal wound when he dies.
Next up we'll go.
Pretend last game.
So that was a frag cannon and a bunch of Stormbolt of Fire, reduced that Venom to a single wound.
So first shot.
I'm gonna take a shot at the Watchmaster.
With his Guardian Spear. Now, the Watchmaster having a crack at the.
Yeah. Oh, so the end choose now, sorry.
These miss.
That was a real hit.
Oh, yeah, sorry, wouldn't be first.
I say 4 hit, and 6 wounds. 3 wounds, I do 2.
Shouldn't have been cheap. It's a good one.
4 shots. So miss.
That's right. We're
How many CP do you have?
So 3.
I have.
And
Shoot it 4 more times.
Yeah, the Deathwatch are pretty sick. They give you an opportunity to paint a cool-looking army with a lot of great weapon combinations. And the good part about with an Imperium army is obviously if you like them, it's easy enough to grab a character and a unit and plug them in as an allied detachment, like a patrol, into an existing army. So, for example, you could easily take like a Deathwatch librarian and a squad of intercessors, and instantly you've got a Deathwatch detachment you can plug straight into an existing army, whether that's Space Marines or Guard or something else. So I'm having a weird eye moment with another person in the room, with Tim and his Chaos Marines dealing with the Sisters of Battle. There's Ultramarines they're not Ultramarines, they're Imperial Fists, I believe, today. No, Imperial Fists, Iron Hands today. Facing off against the Thousand Suns, and then the Orcs and the Admech duking it out on one of the other tables nearby as well.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
There goes the first Venom. You know it's a bad day when witches are on the table. Gareth, yeah, you can add assassins to all the lists now, which is fantastic. It's funny, my son and I just finished painting Assassin Force, the box game, and we've got all 4 assassins now painted. So plugging them into any of his Salamander's armies is now great. You don't lose your chapter tactics and doctrines and everything. So, and likewise, the new Inquisitor rules will do the same. And I think that flexibility to make those things happen is actually pretty good for those sorts of models.
Ooh, this is good. Yeah, it's working this way.
I'll still spend that 1 CP if the Hellfire Shell is in the 12 pistol.
Is it limited to 1 type per list? I actually have the book here, so let me just have a quick look and I'll tell you. One of the many advantages of being a TO is that when new books come out, we tend to get them. So I'll just have a quick look at Imperial Agents. Obviously, I can only speak for the Assassins at the moment because we haven't seen the full rules for the Inquisition. So yes, you can include a single agent of the Imperium in an Imperial detachment, but only in a patrol, battalion, or brigade without taking up slots in those detachments. And it doesn't prevent units from the detachment from gaining detachment abilities like chapter tactics, defender's amenity, etc. And it also does not prevent other units from the army benefiting from abilities that require every model to be the same to have that ability, like combat doctrines. An agent of the Imperium included in a patrol, battalion, or brigade in this manner is ignored for all rules that state must have a matching keyword. So you can do that, that's fine. If you take the execution force, then you can take a Vanguard detachment even though you have no HQ. So you've got those 2 ways of adding it to a detachment. You can either add it without taking up a slot in a patrol, battalion, or brigade, or you can take an execution force. There is a stratagem, though, which is the important one, called shadow assignment. So what you can do is, say you put a Vindicare in your army, you get to the table and you realize that a Calidus assassin would be better for you. You can spend 2 CP, use this stratagem before the battle begins in your army. If your army includes exactly 1 assassin, remove that unit from your army and then add 1 assassin of your choice to the army. So it's a much more eloquent solution to the White Dwarf rules. It just gives us a bit more finality in how you add them and how much they cost, which I really like. So it's actually 2 CP, guys, not 1. So, yeah, I can see a lot of Imperial armies literally throwing 1 assassin in if they have the points left over. And then, you know, at that point you can turn around and go, okay, cool, I'm gonna put my all-rounder, which in my opinion the best assassin point for point is the Calidus. And then you can get to the table and go, you know what, I'm happy to spend 2 command points. I'm going to swap that out for whatever I actually need for the event. There is something to be said for taking a vanguard of assassins so that you do have access to the ones you actually want. But when you do that, you obviously then have to select. You can't use the stratagem to swap it out. So the 2 CP option to swap does have some really solid merits because you can be reactive.
That's the Southpark.
Oh, yeah.
Gareth, 2 CP. So when you it's not 2 CP for assassins. It's you can literally just put an assassin into an Imperial patrol brigade or battalion for its points. And then if you get to the table and you want to swap the assassin, you can only have 1 at your point. It is only 1. If you want to spend 2 CP, you can swap it. If you want to take a vanguard of assassins, you can take up to 5, I think is a vanguard, or 6. And then you can't use the stratagem because the stratagem specifies that it's if your army includes 1 and only 1. So I think if you're going to throw a single assassin in the army, having that 2 CP up your sleeve to make that change if you need to is a really positive thing. So the fact that you can target Vindicares now in 9th edition with the rules that we've seen so far makes them probably less appealing. But, you know, the ability to drop in a Calexis when you're having to deal with a Thousand Suns army, or the ability to swap over to an Eversaw when you need to chew through hordes. For 2 CP, I feel like there's value there. I still say the Calidus is probably the best all-round for what she can do and for the manipulation that she gives you on the table. The Eversaw is a solid combat unit that just mulches troops. He suffers a little bit in some army builds because what he does can be duplicated elsewhere. And likewise, the Vindicare is probably less appealing, particularly for Space Marine players who have eliminators. Gareth, hoping they release new models, long overdue. I don't know. Those assassins are actually pretty new compared to a lot of other products. I mean, they're in plastic clan packs, so they're not that old. They're relatively new. I'm actually going to see if I can give you a date as to when they're released. I know that the plastics originally came out with Assassin Execution Force, the box game. When they became sold separately after that, I'm not 100% sure. So,
Does he have to measure up and down from buildings?
I want to say the Assassins are probably 5 years old. I want to say it's like 2015 or something similar. May 2015. So those Assassins are only 5 years old. Literally, they've just turned 5. The Assassin Force game as well, if you can find a copy anywhere, I mean, the Assassins themselves are between $50 and $60 each from memory, and then you get the Chaos Terminator Lords, some Cultists, and some Snapfit Chaos Space Marines. It's actually a good deal, that box. I think it was about $160, $180 retail, and the Assassins alone are worth more than $200. I managed to pick up a brand new copy for $80, which was a steal as far as I was concerned. Gareth, yeah, pretty much new for GW then. Yeah, look, as far as I wouldn't expect to see any new Assassins in the short term. I know. I've heard from multiple sources that the goal was to first of all get rid of Finecast over the next 2 years. Now, that was meant to be by the end of 2021, but obviously COVID's going to affect that. So I'm assuming that we'll probably by the tail end of, or the second half of 2022, we should see the end of Finecast based on everything I've heard. And then I think there's an opportunity for them to go back to plastic kits and start revamping them. And if you look at the Necron range, for example, we're getting new destroyers to replace the and heavy destroyers to replace some of the Finecast stuff and get rid of the green rods that are from 3rd edition. We're talking back in the 1999, 2000 space. So those models are, the monolith as well, really very much needing a revamp. And then they've still got to go through, and there's still Finecast units that lurk in some of the armies. The Eldar in particular have a lot of Finecasts, mostly aspect warriors and characters. The Orcs still have a couple floating around. The Necrons look like they may, depending on how they update the Codex. Again, mainly special characters and flayed ones. We haven't seen new plastic flayed ones yet, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. They are in the stories, so I can't help but think we'll get plastics of them very shortly. There is definitely a new monolith in 9th. They have even showed pictures of it. It is a brand new kit. Basically, all the old green rods that were in the Necron Warriors, the Destroyers, and the monolith are being replaced. So there is most definitely a new monolith on its way. You can even see it on their preview page. I will see if I can find you a link, Gareth.
No involved in combat. 4 updates if you more than 2.
4 into the final, 3 in chapter.
Scared little guys. No.
Go down.
Oh, is it?
Fair enough. Gareth saying he's not a Necron fan, just what he heard. No, we're basically seeing them phase out all of the older stuff from the Necron range. There is they did produce an article. It was just after people started mucking about with some of the background photos they'd released, and someone cleaned it up in Photoshop and tried to kind of show what the new models were going to be. And then the next day, Games Workshop said, okay, cool, we're going to show you exactly what is in this photo. And they kind of had a bit of a tongue-in-cheek, what could this be? And is that the Silent King? And, they kind of had a bit of fun with it, like they have done in recent years with a lot of these sorts of releases. So...
Only on my phone. I think
The big one!
So, yes.
I think it's actually one attack.
Just seeing if I can find the post they did. It was back in the sort of the tail end of May or maybe very early June.
I mean, I'm still within 9 days. Yeah. So worst comes to worst. It's a 10-inch charge and 9-inch to those. So.
So you killed 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, but -2.
Oh,
Major gets rid of trash.
Oh yeah, here we go. I've just found it.
And then I scored defend objective 2.
So is Finecast a fail and they're heading back to plastic? Look, I mean, Finecast was introduced as a stopgap as they phased out of metal miniatures, and they were always heading towards plastic. So Finecast was never meant to replace plastic so much as it was meant to give them a method of not having to buy the very expensive metal when obviously all the market prices changed in regards to buying tin and lead. So Finecast was about giving them an opportunity to continue to, produce those single miniature type characters that needed a standalone release without the costs associated with a plastic model. And it was after that they then discovered that, hey, people were willing to buy. They basically have now said, oh, no, we want to get out of that altogether, which is why we obviously got Drukhari in plastic, Jane Zar in plastic, we've got Mephiston in plastic, and we've started seeing more and more character models in plastic, which is great. I've just got a discussion happening with, what have you done, Dan?
Dr. Voidman on the Dreadnought.
So you roll 3d6, and for every 3+, it's a mortal wound.
And that's separate classes of damage, so
It's
what? 3 together.
No, it's 3/1 damage. So we've just had the the Void Raven bomber pivot, fly over the Dreadnought, and then drop the bomb. And Dan's, I don't know there's much that you can do about that.
Not Judy Tower, what's the other Dreadnought? There's something for Dreadnoughts.
I was going to say Duty Eternal's half damage, but that doesn't work in this case because it's 3/1 damages. You do have to check whether he explodes.
Oh, yeah.
The dice is the librarian and the Carbolite warriors. Doesn't matter. It was a 3. So he doesn't die. He doesn't explode. That's good.
So I want to tell you what to do. I know you did. Yeah, that's why I didn't want to let you do it.
So there's no
That is very true. Jordan just commenting that if he had consolidated with the Dreadnought earlier in the piece, then he wouldn't have been flown over, which means he wouldn't have died.
I'm just going to go. He's kind of
6-inch movement. So the Vanguard veterans can move janky. Oh, of course, the Terminators only move 5, don't they? Oh, of course. And the bikes are 12 or 14? Yeah.
Oh, sorry, does it explode? Before I do that?
Dan, they're trying to break his nice, delicate Drukhari.
Oh, yeah, so she'll be fine.
So what was the strength again?
6.
We'll go with
Got about an hour left in the round. So intercepting volley being played. And Jordan rolling a 6 and getting back a CP on it. It's 2 CP, Dan, so you get to roll 2 dice. If you want to check out the army lists as well, I did post it in the original part 1 of these videos, but I'll post a link in the comments now if you want to go and check out the lists. They're on downunderpairings.com. You can also use that link to get to the results at the end of today. If you want to see who wins and who loses, there is actually a leaderboard there at the moment, which is obviously how we get to the top table, what you're watching right now.
I'll tap them. So then that'll be 9-inch charge. We'll go like that.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Is that the way to do official lists for tournaments? We're fortunate with Down Under pairings that when you upload your list, it'll give you the opportunity to kind of format it. It uses raw text to let you format it how you like. With the advent of the new Warhammer 40,000 app that's going to be released with 9th edition, apparently there is an output available within that for tournaments. So once we've got the app in our hand and we can see what the output looks like, then it'll give us an opportunity to set some standards as to what a tournament list should be looking like. And it wouldn't surprise me if it becomes the norm internationally where you use the app and upload with that. That does a couple of things. It will see, from Games Workshop point of view, that's great because obviously it means there's a whole bunch of people buying their app. Now, from what I understand, the app is going to be free, but then there'll be a subscription model, much like the Age of Sigmar one, where you'll be able to spend, I think the Age of Sigmar one here in Australia is $1.49 a month for the army builder component of it. And then from what we've seen on the live streams, when you buy a codex in 9th edition, you'll be given a digital code that you can then use to get access to that digital data on the app, which is pretty exciting because it's about time that happened, rather than having to double pay for things. By all accounts, Gareth, it's better than Battlescribe. If they're using the Age of Sigmar, I can't think of the name of the app now. If they're using the Age of Sigmar format, that's heaps easier to navigate than Battlescribe. The other issue we obviously have with Battlescribe is there are errors that lurk in because it is a community-driven product. So there are errors in army lists that do sneak into tournaments, which is a real frustration because, organizers can look at lists and look at lists and look at lists. They'll still miss things. It's, the nature of human error. And then you end up in a position where you have to potentially disqualify players. And unfortunately, I've had to do that in the past where there has been an error. The players submitted via Battlescribe and haven't checked it manually themselves, and that's led to a list being illegal. So, yeah, I can easily see a standard being set in regards to... Yeah, it was just above the bottom bracket. So that was the Dan getting overexcited and assuming the Void Raven was dying. It's actually being shot at the Venom.
Ended up being the exact same.
I can't remember what it was.
And then Film of Pain. Yeah, they have Film of Pain. So this is the one that really works.
So I believe that's a dead Venom.
I'm not sure if it's like, say, one more bad shooter. Oh, yeah. Sorry, how are you actually trying to save one wound?
No. I was
Yeah, so that is a dead Venom from that aggressor squad. Which is taking to the field now. Missed the start, planning to do this style of caster future tourneys. Look, today's exercise in streaming was actually, like I said earlier, around testing the new hardware. We recently acquired a new laptop. It was only a couple of days ago. The old laptop just didn't have the grunt to process and stream at a high enough resolution and frame rate. The new one is sat here chilling completely fine, and that comes with spending significantly more on this laptop than the first one. And it seemed kind of fitting, given that the patrons of us are the ones playing, and it's their patronage that allows us to upgrade hardware so we can bring more content. So we've got a I think it's a C922 Pro camera sat on a tripod here. Now the tripod is actually Emma's, which she uses for her photography, but it's a HD camera, which is great. The new laptop is purring away quite happily. Mics on the players' final table would be awesome. Now, we actually have plans for that, Gareth, because we do have lapel mics. Unfortunately for us, the mixing deck that we have will not let us have mics on the players and mics for us. It's only got 2 microphone ports, which is what we use for podcasting. I've actually just gone and priced up a new mixing deck. It's about $800, which will allow us to have up to 8 microphones. It's a want. It would be a great to have, but we just don't have the funds for it at the moment. What I'll probably do for future events is set up the mixing deck that we do have for 2 hosts, myself and obviously someone else, that we can then use our microphones and headphone array that we can chat to you throughout the game. And then also run a second camera. We'll move the camera so that it's over the table so you can see the entire table. This was a very ad hoc solution today. And then once we've got the rig, we've actually got the rig to set the camera up over the table already. And then we can then look at a second camera that'll allow us to focus on a dice box, for example, to let you see the dice rolls. And then we've obviously got the camera built into the laptop that'll let us have a camera on us if we choose to as well. So it should give us an opportunity to then use something like OBS or a similar set of software that'll allow us to have multiple cameras and angles and things. And then going forward, I've got a whole bunch of ideas around a really fancy table. Because I've got some terrain I was building that actually features keyhole cameras built into it, so we could stream from a model's point of view on the table. So that's probably a little bit of way left yet, but what's been more important today is that the new laptop has, really crushed it. It's sat here all day, purring away. It's probably, we ended up buying a gaming laptop to do this because what I actually wanted in a laptop you can't buy, apparently. Certainly not in the mixture of specs that I wanted to get the most out of it. And instead we just went a little bit overboard, but we've got something that's working really well. It's sat here nice and quiet the whole day. Fans haven't raised above minimum. And it's been pretty reliable in terms of its, the frame rates we were getting on Facebook were between 30 and 40 frames a second. The bit rate from what I can see here on YouTube has been really positive as well. So it's just now ironing out some of the teething issues around making sure the camera doesn't disconnect and the connectivity is all good. So we'll get there. The top-down camera works really well, though, because obviously those big line-of-sight blocking buildings can be really painful to see the action in the middle of the table.
We got 1 engine cannon, one of these guys.
Sorry,
So
so
one is to go to hole 1. Yep.
And
So
let's look at my belt shot.
yeah, it's not much like kill these guys actually. So we got hole there that can do some stuff.
So we do have aggressors and the Incept are now starting to die.
Oh, yeah, we had they're not fair, still are they?
All right.
Because you didn't have it.
So
No, just a normal reroll of and last 4.
That's right.
You get,
I don't think
you get
Leadership 8 on a Space Marine squad, so yes. So they've lost 4 models, did you say, this turn? So leadership's, 1 in 3, 1 in 6, depending on... Have I got my head around the new terrain rules yet, plus line of sight? No. Part of the issue is obviously we haven't seen it all yet. We've obviously seen a lot of bits of the terrain, but not all of it, particularly in terms of how much is meant to be on a table. Characters can't block for other characters, no. No. And the line of sight, I'm actually hoping for a little bit of abstraction going back to sort of 5th edition where you couldn't target banner poles and wings and that sort of stuff, anything that wasn't the main body of a miniature, so that you're not adversely penalized for having a character with us holding a sword in the air, looking all heroic, and all of a sudden being able to target the tip of his sword. You know, I think defining hull and main body is probably more important for line of sight in the short term, just to make it bring back some of the hobby aspects. I was hoping they would follow ITC rules for first level blocking line of sight. Well, they kind of have an ITC, though the ITC champs missions and modifications are all going anyway, so the new rules will be the new rules. But from what I can gather, anything with the obscuring is essentially going to block line of sight anyway if you're behind it. And then if you're in it, true line of sight will apply. So it's going to encourage players and event organizers to have terrain that does have blocked line of sight in part, but also doesn't need it in the early parts of the game. So I think we're using the ITC rules here where basically, the bottom floor is line of sight blocking for windows and doors, but you don't create walls. Because it does, this particular table actually has the majority of the windows and doors actually boarded up. You can see it. If you look at the buildings in the frame right now, you can see that the windows have actually got blocked up. So it does mean that there's less abstraction happening on this board.
Stop hiding on that end of the wall. Stop fucking putting that. He's going to go up here. You can only do it up there. These guys are going to.
That's what I mean.
I can put it on there.
So I rolled 5 up for cover. 6 up anyway.
So I think that's the last. I think that's the last aggressor gone. Yep. So the guys are now looking at around 45 minutes to go, but these armies are just gutting each other as they go.
Please, you've got to do something.
Is that a 2?
For a CP?
Yeah.
He's got 6 remaining. Watch him roll a 1. Oh, it's a 2. That was literally a 50% chance to kill. And Dan, having already used his CP, fails to kill the librarian. So what's left on the table is actually alive. So there's a chaplain with jump pack, a smash captain, a Deathwatch captain with jump pack. It looks like there's some scouts in the backfield there, which are... So there are 3 squads of 5 scouts. There's the two kill teams just over here. There's a... they're teleported. So there are some Terminators just outside of frame that are still alive, and there's also a librarian just over here.
So I take my blade edition 2 times. Yep, so you put 46. Yep. So that is all my cards at 3. As long as when you draw them out, you still yes, more than yeah, so is that all correct?
Point score, I'll just get you an update. Gareth, give me 1 sec.
That's the last thing they can see.
2 hits.
These do have shock crowds, so they're like D3 damage, so they charge.
Yeah, just thinking of forcing you to you can't like move it.
So these will hit. And then these are strength 4.
Yeah, cool.
Looks like going into the start of the Drukhari turn, it was 6 points to 2. From the looks of it. But that's obviously before the Drukhari have had their turn. So I'm assuming there's going to be a few more points scored by the Drukhari here.
So energy. Actually, I do know that he's just the energy cannon he does.
I'm just going to leave the microphone beside the table for a moment while I just go and check on the other games going. I'll be back in just a second.
So these are shots coming from the Venoms. They get reroll ones to hit and wounds because of the outcome right here. So this is going to the
What's your rapid fire range?
So the top one's 18, the one at the bottom is 12. That's what I was just measuring there.
Rapid fire 36 inches normal range. That's pretty good.
Yeah, if I put them in the other detachment, it's rapid fire 21.
Well, because you mentioned you have a +6 or something. Well, that's
Pretty nice.
so it's not used to rapid fire over anything other than like 24 or 30.
Force wound. Drilling ones. Thank God for that.
And this goes really well for the workout. So two.
Yeah, what it's so mentioned.
8 wounds onto them. No negatives.
8 wounds?
Yep.
No neck. On the Terminator.
Roll to it.
All good?
Thought that would happen. And then just the dudes inside. Weirdly, you measure from the hole for this one. Is that over somebody?
There needs to be over someone who can see that. Get that was over him, but you can't see him, so I think it has to be him.
Yeah. So it's not over that. That's fine. So 4 shots from there. That one's obviously within 15. That would have just been damage.
Pretty much.
So 3 is no rerolls though.
Everything's going to try.
5 wounds. No negatives.
One way?
And then the 2 blasters just to finish it off. Okay, and you can do this. You know what, these weapons. Tough to 4 or 5? 2. One at next one. D6 damage.
No good.
So you go through it.
Fuck your extra 3 attacks.
Yeah, done.
Thank God.
So 146.
I'll finish with that. I kill. Oh, you got morale. Morale with Masha. You're all at 6 1, please, but you reroll with this. Yeah, you're good. How many things did I kill? 1, 2, 3. I got no prisoners. It could be 3. 6.
All hit and freeze.
Sure go.
On yours, I'll get defend fire.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, score of cards. No change. I hold 1, 2, you hold 1, I hold that one. I hold more.
No, I killed more.
One of my tricks is not going to be like.
Who got kill more at around 1?
Nobody, we went even because we didn't kill anything.
I only wrote down 1, but I didn't check. My turn?
These guys haven't something.
No.
I made it by myself at 9. He's got 2 and he's got 3.
Yeah, okay, cool.
I think I draw one bonus because I've got.
That's not this one. This is put the card back from any discard pile. Is that this one?
They're all going to go into the wall.
That rock squad, the other rock squad, yeah, that's
Still a lot of mega
that's why I wasn't
Oh, there are a lot of
using
mega
that.
Yeah, I can't get rid of them. Predicting two misses. After I 3 4 misses did really do what they needed to. Yeah, yeah. I think the writing's on the wall at this point. You guys are sitting on 2 wins, I think.
Yes!
Oh, okay.
Did you have yeah, I shuffled back in. Shit, I should have been doing it the whole time.
Discard, not score.
From discard, shuffle back into that.
Yes.
Before putting it back. Yeah.
Did you discard it?
All right, we are back.
No, from your discard pile.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not your squad pile, that's your discard pile. Yeah.
So it looks like the Orcs are going to get over the Adeptus Mechanicus. We got Gazgul sitting on 2 wounds, but there's an awful lot of Mega Knobs that are in position to charge again. We have seen the Thousand Suns get over the top against the Iron Hands and the Astraeus. And then it looks like the Sisters of Battle are hanging in the balance against the Chaos Space Marines. So a couple of close games. Unfortunately, we had an uber psychic phase from the Thousand Suns to deliver a death blow to the Space Marines in rapid succession, although the Astraeus apparently took 3 turns to die. So at least the game was entertaining for them both. And this is looking quite close. What was the score going in at the end of this round?
10 to 3, 4, 5, 10 to
10 to 6 in favour of the Deathwatch.
shooting fuel points.
Gotta love Thousand Suns. Yeah, he has a million casts and denies. It was pretty horrific to watch.
But it happens at the end of the phase. Yeah.
So looking at the time we've got left, I'm hoping we'll get 4 turns out of the game. So we got 40 minutes, so there's no reason why we shouldn't get turn 4 for both players before time runs out.
I'm going to put them in. So move all.
Yeah, all instances. Yeah.
They're just more about like they're basic. Yes.
Oh, I see. The space? Yeah,
Potentially don't.
yeah, that's. I just want to. Good play.
Good tactic.
I'm keen for the next one. I've already got a pretty good amount of dominance box coming. I'll see the stuff there.
That's it. That's the thing. Yeah. So he allows them to charge in one.
Yeah.
I mean, you need to poke in that, so you could easily do that.
And if he's not in, then I'll play down.
Yeah, no, you can totally do it. Yeah, that's it.
If
No,
you
you can totally do it. I'm not worried about that at all.
6, 7,
Now I
Now I can declare the first spell attack the Inquisitor. Did you want to?
So 2 into the Inquisitor.
Sure.
I'll be on 2. Spot for my
On wounds. Is that right? What do you into the Jazz? I mean, just discard for 2. Yeah, 2 wounds.
Yeah.
System.
Mike, how much time's left?
We have 36 minutes.
Yeah, away.
When did you take? Sorry. So 5 ups.
No, I did it the second. No, I did one.
Two.
Yeah.
Two goes up.
Can you correctly?
No, I did.
Sorry? Can anything heroically intervene while I'm free?
I can't.
No.
It's two. She passed.
I'm surprised to be like this.
Okay, so you attack.
Yeah.
So we'll do.
How are you going to do it? Yeah, I'm going to say. Nope. Only GC would do that. Only GC would do it once. I can do it as many times as I like, which is why there's. Okay, CP. Nope.
Do you have to let?
Do I get mine back?
Yes.
So that was Agents of Vect again.
Keeping him
So if
away.
Jesus.
I re-rolled to get one back. I still keep that extra one and I get a refund. Because
You essentially don't spend the points on the stratagem. So it's-
the extra one, I just go back to it.
Yeah.
Ruin that plan.
What litany did you use this turn, Jordan? What litany did you use this turn?
I only have one, which is
Yes.
plus one to wound
Yes.
shooting.
+1 to wound for shooting attacks. Did you actually get to use it this turn or not? Yep. Yes, it did go off. So here comes the Smash Captain and all his glory.
If it happens,
Psychic.
All the psychers are now dead. That's going to speed the game up a little bit.
Still got a lot of dice roll with all those bloody stones.
So I've still got flyer as my one. No.
That's a 6 plus 1 wound.
That's not plus one, 3 or 1.
Okay.
I have to spend CP for those.
No, I think. So 4, 1.
These 5.
So we now got some rapid fire scouts coming in at the Void Raven.
3 can have a fire. 2
Oh no, scouts.
Just one. How many? One. So he's 4 of his fire as well.
Obviously, you're the ones. This is the winner because this is the final.
Is that over?
Well, when we put it into
One. Maybe 3.
What was this? Sorry?
So for those of you who are playing along at home, if you head to the army list link in down under pairings, you can obviously see all the results as the games are going on and the rankings and so on. However, there's another tab at the very top which has circuits, and if you click on circuits and then hit circuit list, you'll actually be able to see all the different circuits that are currently active in Australia. And one of those is listed as the OBSEC Patrons 2020 40K 8th edition. And if we click on that, it'll actually give us the results from all of the pods in the lead up to the final. So the winner of the final will obviously be on the table that we're watching right now, because this is the top table. It's the only people on two wins going into this round. And what'll be interesting is Daniel Norris, who's currently ranked 4th in the in the ladder for those events, will obviously pick up a decent score to add to his total. Connor, who's currently ranked number 1, has I think he won his second game just now. So we're going to see a tussle at the top in terms of ranking for the series.
Second or third, I don't think I'm second top.
But in terms of the winner for the event, it'll be, whoever's wins this game, more than likely. We will see. So Courtney, Marcus, and Connor, if you go into the rankings, are all tied for first. 103.6. No, this is.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So if you actually look in the scores, the blue ones are all completed. The green ones are still in play.
Gotcha.
So
So I get boost 7 points now, but
So-
Daniel could take away first
Yes.
from me. Ooh.
so we've got 24 players in there, and there's if you go back into the circuits, you can obviously see all of the circuits. There is an OBSEC 40k one there. Only 2 results in there at the moment, obviously, but there will be more out of that as the year goes on.
Yeah, sure. That's moving forward. So
So on a hit,
not
these
very
three
well.
bottles.
I'll just go this.
Anyway,
So I'll show my
what was that? Roll?
Yes, this is strength 6. So that wounds, and this is minus 3.
CP reroll happening.
That's it. And the bonus. This one doesn't have any AP, so it doesn't matter. And then there's these 2.
And there goes the Void Raven.
So, yeah, I'll read that. Yeah, I'll read that too.
They don't get offset.
No, what was the 3 and 6
Yeah, I think Jordan just realised he's moved himself off of the objective. All right, we're now bang on 30 minutes remaining, so it certainly looks from here that the orcs are going to get over the AdMech. And it's anyone's guess with the chaos and the Sisters of Battle. I'm just watching the Seraphim being deep struck in on that table, so they're probably in turn 3 at this point. Or it could be later in the game if they've got a redeploy strat that I'm not aware of.
Stop me from deploying with it 12. All this shit.
And we went to drop them off each week and then messages. Oh yeah, no, he doesn't. My board.
Yeah. Just on this one.
What are you firing at?
Oh, okay.
I legit
This is turn 3.
Are you good?
Yeah, it was. I don't want to chance that again.
Oh, you know what?
I just thought of you going back.
It's like 3 ones.
Yeah,
I'll throw that.
Have you seen his collection in his shed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to regret this.
You know where not enough. D3.
A million.
So
He has a new number. That's why he's so
Million Stormbolter shots coming in from the looks of that. Because all the aggressors are dead, so it can't be anything else.
Yeah, no, so.
Yeah. Sorry.
13 wounds. Is that against the Ravager or the Venom? Venom.
Yeah.
How much damage?
Yeah.
Once.
That is a dead Venom. Ooh.
Second question in frag cannon at the larger vehicle.
Is there a negative?
Yeah. No, that's not you. That's not you.
Yeah, that's not, yeah.
My bad. 3 into him. 3 into him. And 1 into.
What's the substance?
Yeah.
6 on a Ravager.
Nah, 20 on the horizon there. 2? Yeah.
So,
yeah, two more plays.
AP 2 damage.
Sorry?
How many? No, yeah.
Just one.
So these guys into.
Sure. Yep.
And you've got how many wins?
Seven.
Three wins, three.
This is the rest of the
Three wins.
Yeah, always.
Ravager. No, Ravager's no negative to hit.
It's not a death.
If it does,
Yeah. 3 into the next one.
Yep. Another three.
So 5s to wound.
There's what, four?
and re-rolling heavy.
And the one guy into this scrub here.
Sure.
2 wounds.
Yep. So 5 up.
Yeah, it's got to be like
2 wins, 5 up.
So in that case,
1.
You get to change what you say. I think.
They still fly up, but they've got a bubble to change every turn.
Okay. Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 12.
So easy.
Okay.
Alright, so attack that.
Yep.
Alright, so the ridiculous first. Just onto there's just one unit. I'll start with this one.
no, you're outside.
Yeah, so he's not in combat with them.
Yeah, but if your intention was to
yeah,
not.
because
I just pardon me, so if they are, they are.
Yeah, oh, sure. I mean, yeah, I can tell. That's less than one. But yeah, I don't actually.
So, question for those of you watching: would you prefer a camera on a fixed dice tray on the side of the table so you can see all the dice rolls, or would you prefer multiple angles of the table itself? Assuming we've only got 2 cameras in as an option, would you prefer to see the dice tray so you can watch all the dice rolls up close, or would you prefer a top-down angle and then maybe a side view, or something that we can move around during the game so you can kind of get shots of the action as it happens? Let us know in the comments.
So, what is it, the Dominus? 4 attacks? Which one?
No, I'm going
And this is at strength. 6. So 3.
He's going to
3 goes through. Minus 2.
crack me.
2. Flat 2.
What was this one? 7 goes.
Crack me.
Oh, yeah.
And then
Minus 1.
Minus something.
Think so?
Save it anyway.
Same, but it's only 3 attacks. Okay, so
Yes.
that it is not 2. So 1 wound. 3. Well, it's my charges. There you go. Yeah. Flat 2.
Yep, so
The combat with these vehicles, the main base or
It's hull. So yeah, you basically use the silhouette of a radar projected onto the ground to determine the hull height. So I've actually seen people try and argue that because you can't get your base within 1 inch of the hull, that you can't fight it. Yeah. So what I've said to people is you look top down at them and then use their silhouette to work out where they're. Yeah. Common sense.
So you charging?
that's no one.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, so.
Oh no.
Yep.
I'll get you within.
I got ready.
I think that's a failed charge.
I've got +1.
And so you've got the other key here. So
You just roll another one.
Yeah, it's a hit under that.
3 ones. You get 3 of the bonus. Oh, okay. So just 2. Is it 5, 6, 5?
You don't get
Yeah.
how nasty they in combat.
They need to have that. So they.
I think they just carb like warriors.
So that one's fine, and then this one.
Do they do much?
Is also fine. Sorry, no, he does.
Guardians.
4 up to 8. Yeah.
just the one from me.
Yeah. All right. So we'll do
Go and try to do anything else.
So
1 CP for Red Rampage D3.
3 extra attacks on the Smash Captain.
I'm just going to choose the +1 strength.
Um,
Sorry, no, I'm not, because I've already chosen that. So this is for everybody.
So he's base 4, 1 for Shock Assault.
And then that one's don't think it'll matter.
It's an awful lot of attacks.
Yeah, we'll sign with one.
And I'm going to negative something. And yeah, it's working.
Yes.
So
Rules query. I will be right back.
Sorry.
Next words.
They have that they can't target
Unless they're the closest unit.
One. Sorry. I saw 2 and said 2. How many wins? 5?
Does that mean they have to be targeted?
With a band of 6.
So just one.
What's going to happen? These guys.
And
These guys. One killing bang.
potentially want to shoot something. Alright, so I'll shoot. Yeah.
5. This icon.
Yeah, so
1 killing the pain.
So they essentially just become normal cats.
Yeah,
so they can.
Yeah, one shot. So I'm shooting on 2s.
1 because we kill the pain.
So probably.
Sorry for stepping away, guy. Yes, this is going into the bottom of turn 3, and they've got, according to my timer, they have 20 minutes remaining. Is the Ravager dead, or is it survived? Blew up. Okay. So the Smash Captain has delivered a punchy. How many points they have each? At the start of the turn, they were 10 points to 6 in favour of the Deathwatch. However, obviously that number is going to shift again. Oh, thanks, man.
And that's kind of the only one I'm after, but it's going to be too late, I'm afraid. I still can't shoot this.
20 minutes.
Consolidate on fighting again.
They're going to go one. They're going to go 10-4.
Okay, so charge phase.
What's the save?
I got these guys.
Does that degrade once you use
So
it?
both of them.
No, it's until you fail it.
How many guys left in this house?
It can be used once or one fail and it's gone.
One fail and it's gone.
One hit now, one fall go through.
You have to roll them one at a time. So you don't get to roll 5 dice at once, and it's literally saved individually. Actually, that's not true. The rules don't specify that, but the way the fast dice rolling kind of gets ignored for an Archon with the Shadow Field.
How many wins?
6.
And how many does he?
He's got 4.
He has 4 wins.
So the Smash Captain has spent 3 CP to fight again. And so 5 hits on the Archon, winning on 2s. Is that 5 wounds?
And on the
3 hits on the Venom, and 3 wounds on the Venom.
So 3 salute. So 3 go through. 2.
It's only a 3-inch blast from memory of the Venom, isn't it?
oh, it is too small.
He's got 4 attacks. Hitting on side. And forced to win.
Did the Smash Captain take any wounds?
One model.
Then we've got the
How many wounds does the Smash Captain got left? 3 remaining?
And I'm gonna yeah, good idea. Okay, so 4 attacks.
What is a Smash Captain? A Smash Captain is a Space Marine Captain with a Jump Pack, Thunder Hammer, and Storm Shield. He's normally buffed with various things to kind of make him more efficient.
But smash captain is like spend 9 CP, kill a 9.
So the original Smash Captain had a number of buffs that meant that he could just charge whatever he wanted and normally beat it to death. So the colloquialism there is this, in this particular case, this Blood Angel Smash Captain.
Different character, I'll consolidate again. But stay out of damage.
So he's rocking a Thunderhammer Storm Shield and the Relic Jump Pack, which denies Overwatch. And because he's a Blood Angel, he gets +1 attack when he charges. He's already getting Shock Assault. And then he also then spends CP on stratagems to make himself more beefy. So in this case, he picked up an extra D3 attacks. So yeah, the Smash Captain is a pretty much a staple of most Space Marine armies. All right, guys, you got about 15 minutes left. Let's try and get turn 4 as well.
So yeah, you're right. Yeah, one left. Oh yes, all 3 of them.
3 to the 1.
That one, thank you.
5 ups. So let's not get
Are you out of CP? So the Deathwatch have none. I think the Drukhari have 1. And sadly for him, the Shadow Field specifies you can never re-roll it.
Never.
Yeah.
Which one's?
They've gone out of their way to largely remove 2-up invulnerables out of the game and cap them at 3-ups. And I think the Drukhari is one of the few that still remains of a native. The Makari does have a 2-up, and you can get Eldrad can get a 2-up invulnerable. Or he used to be able to. He needs Protect. I think he starts with a 3-up invulnerable. I could be wrong though. He used to have a 3-up invulnerable. Well, Rune Armor's 4-up, but yeah, Protect is a way of. I've had a human walking around with a 1-up, 3-up before. That's entertaining. So here come the Mandrakes.
For quickness sake. Yeah, it's like somewhere over here.
Not very. 4. That's 4. 4 on call. So 5 ups. And so it's 1. So they're all going to be 3, and they are. So it gets you. Fuck it. Good one. Right. So we just got those 2 left. So your turn now.
They were not paying. Yeah, they were the same things now. Oh, I meant to leave them within one. I meant to leave it here too.
Okay, so
Boink. And deep strike.
let's go with
That's that. Alright, shooting the
She's got
monster, by the way.
okay.
Spin pistol. Yes. Wounds. No negative on the hit.
I'm happy to call it.
You'll hold more anyway.
This is
Get
that.
that. Just 1 wound on him.
Any
No.
Sure.
Everything is
This killed 1, 2,
here.
3.
Shoot up into the scouts here.
How much time have we got though?
Just under 15 minutes.
Well, 20 already. Then.
You only 5 shots in venom.
You got another.
Does victory points matter for this?
Only if we go back, counting back past battle points.
Battle points is
0 to 20.
okay.
This rabbit here will shoot.
Should we take that? Yeah. Maybe.
So put 2 guns
I mean,
into them and 1 gun up into them.
So
the 2 guns
we
into
got,
here.
how many primaries did we get? I don't remember.
3 is to wound.
How many?
Not many.
5 wounds at
Three even.
No, that's right. I think first 2 turns we got 1 each, and then 2. And then you got 2.
2 damage each.
So you would have 4.
No, this rabbit.
Oh,
So 1 gun
okay,
strike,
so
because I'm
I've
shooting.
never had these models twice.
11.
Sure. Oh, yeah, I see. Yeah. So you got 2 items there. Okay, cool. Okay, and then we'll go.
It's only because
So Maelstrom. I got so 1, 2. So all good.
Threes.
1, 2,
3 wounds,
Three.
negative 3. How many are there?
4, 5, 6.
So we're going to go on
Oh,
7 Maelstrom.
Neg 3,
yeah,
neg 2, 5.
and then the last one will go into
1, 2, 2 damage.
yes.
7, 8 plus
13, cool. So that's so 7 and 13, so you'll be plus. So
these
that's
are
plus 6, so plus
I
8.
put all their shots into Terminators.
Yep, and then the 6. What is it? So plus 8, and then kill points. And then you'll get Kingslayer. Yeah, I'm happy to sort that.
What's the toughness
You're
of
gonna, then you're gonna have another 2 turns.
Force to wound, but 6
Two
wounds.
wounds and
We'll
5
just
up
doctor
and
it
two
and say
up.
that you got 20.
So
We're happy with that.
6 are 4 wounds in addition.
Good on you, man. Yeah, there's no way because because you've still got 2 turns essentially.
3 wounds
to
at
go
neg
through
1.
and do some stuff. I'm not going to be able to do
3
anything else
1, 2.
because you'll pop my stuff next turn. I mean, assuming that like this guy and this guy dies to these dudes and then these
Just
guys.
wondering if you'll shoot to the scouts in the back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Sag could do that as well. Sag could even shoot this guy. Maybe. Yeah. So the Sag probably kills that, and then this
Scouts are
combination
toughness
probably
3 or
kills
4.
that. I'm not going to
4.
kill that for Overwatch, so I'm not going to be able to do anything about
So
them. So we'll
fours.
say that goes.
So there's
so we'll call it
4 saves at neg 1 and 1 more wound.
Suss it out.
So 4, 5,
3,
2.
and then I'll
And what was the other thing?
1 mortal wound in addition.
So, round 3, 4,
The other one,
Strength.
we'll put
So you can't quite see it on the frame at the moment, but they've had 15 mandrakes drop in just at the very top of the table.
Yeah, so we'll say
Um,
6 shots new stuff.
They failed to do anything to Terminators, but the first 5 did nothing to the Terminators, but the next 5 have killed 3 scouts, and the last 5 are having a crack at the remaining couple of scouts.
Four pillars, let's say for another 2 turns, because you're just going to sit on them for the next 2
these
turns.
in front. Nothing happens.
Another 4, so that will put you.
2 saves at neg 1.
I'll just say 6
That's
in
the
front.
front.
Yeah. So, because if you kill these like we discussed, then you just go sit there and then for 2 more turns and then you get there as well. So you get up to 6 no, let's say.
So we've got 3 scouts dead.
Maelstrom. So I got just want to pull your cards and see what you get.
Cool.
So
Charging.
I got 7. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah.
Back on first, I guess.
I got 7.
So you kill.
Yeah, it's Captain.
Kill 1, so is that?
Yes.
Yeah, you do.
So you roll a 1
Plus,
plus 1 is trash.
That's it, yeah.
2.
And this succubus here.
Cool.
Oh, I guess that's nice.
Easy peasy.
That built-in reroll from Power from Pain is so useful once you hit turn 3.
Mandrake's there.
On the last turn.
Yeah.
So then you.
that would be
So
Charge
you
these
probably
scouts.
only.
And the two
Yeah,
natives.
so you only get that. So what was that in total?
Oh yeah, they got some bolters. Never mind, just the scouts. Just the scouts.
Throughout the game.
8. Oh
It's
my
a
god.
fail.
13, I think. So,
Still a fail.
Is that your last CP or do they get
No, they get it. They're all Dark Elder get it from turn 3.
These guys will charge the
And
scouts in front.
then,
Run over.
what's the move? What do
Are
you
you
got?
on
Yeah,
the
that's
5
the
yet?
things table. So I'll just
Yeah.
calculate how many
Is
I
that
trophy next
I'm sure. It might not mean anything.
Fine.
No,
Is the total number?
Wounds.
1.
That's it.
AB.
It's 5 up in
Still
That's the best save.
1.
I've got 22 in my arm. So.
Okay, charge. Please make it.
It's not-
22.
Nope.
I'm going to spend a CP for that one. Don't get it
I
back.
thought you could reroll.
He can, but he's got a 6 and a 1.
Ah.
And if you re-roll with the Power from Pain, you have to re-roll both. So he's just re-rolled it and got in a 6, so he's now got a 12-inch charge.
And I was just
That was the last CP.
And,
Yeah, if you have a rule that allows you to re-roll the dice, unless it specifies it allows you to re-roll a single dice,
So you get Overwatch with them.
And you do this. And the game ended naturally, yes. But yes. Yes.
No, that's a snake eyes and a complete role reversal.
Right.
It might be the last time we see scouts if assault intercessors are troop choices. We can confirm they are indeed troop choices. Assault intercessors have shown up today in combat patrol army lists, which require one troop choice. And assault intercessors are indeed troop choices. So, to be fair, scouts were probably on borrowed time to begin with, given how good intercessors were already, particularly veteran intercessors. Yep. No, if he wins the game, he beats you because he places first. It starts with win-loss first. Yes. I've got an excited Connor here trying to figure out if his teammate will beat him or not.
I just want to know how it works because I might be able to get knocked down.
Round points is the first one, then battle points, then victory points. Yes. If he wins. Well, yeah, but if Jordan's gone 220-0s and then loses this 11-9, he'll be the same score as you, which that'll then count back to victory points. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. These sorts of events are always exciting because you do actually end up with quite a close finish. But not necessarily, I mean, the top table is always going to be close, but the second through fourth is always a fight. So Gareth, yes, scouts are horrible models. They are definitely showing their age. Those were released back in 3rd edition 40K. So again, we're talking 99, 2000, give or take. The Space Marine Scouts. They are very old models at this point. No, they are the same models that were released back in 3rd edition. Just had a query there from the gallery. Have they been remade since? No, they have not.
I think the whole job of the arbiters is sort of stretch it out while still getting around. And so I think units of 10 is probably
only 4 minutes left, so
that way they can sort of strain.
Doesn't look like we're getting turn 4.
To start with, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Absolutely.
Does the banner have a gun as well?
Yeah, that's massive. Exactly. Yeah. So killing killing that one with the others is huge. Yeah. But luckily you hit that, so I couldn't really get in there. You actually deployed really well because you made sure that my others are sitting around and they don't really they need things in line of sight. They want to sort of have these channels and you don't really need
maximum line of vehicle.
Yeah,
you can on there.
Yeah. So
I got on the plane.
I think it's
exactly right. What even probably could have been a better play is sort of holding these June Riders back and screening and the crawlers back, because they can still shoot things from far away.
Leadership on.
I mean, I suppose because you can't screen out the board. Forget that list. You sort of want to screen out the board as well as.
So on a 6, they'll lose 1.
Alpus is kind of needed to do that job, but
Leadership 7 for the scouts test now.
Maybe get to 1. But yeah, really.
That was very well.
Yes, they shot no fear, so it's a.
Yeah, absolutely. Normally, that's what these are for me as well.
So we did lose a couple of scouts there to morale.
But doing the jump up, that was massive. Tagging them.
Units.
The destroyers.
that just
Yeah.
All
Well,
right.
happy if you did that.
Have we got time for the movement?
There is a minute and 20 remaining.
You've got from the hand in or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah. Put them over there. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, wrapping would have been a crap choice, I think. Because,
I don't know necessarily that's going to change too much.
They haven't wrapped me at that point. So basically,
Yeah.
just go back, kill them, and then wait for them, and then kill them. And then, and that changes the game massively, I think. If the Megadolphs disappeared that way, even with the Overwatch over there, that would have made me really. Yeah. As soon as I did that, I saw the look and I was like, he's going to hide that. He's going to do it. And he started moving. I was like, yeah, that's it. That's just Sorry, say again. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I see what you mean. Because they're a bit further away. Yeah, true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think I can't remember why. I was just sort of, it was almost like coin kind of.
Surely it's been a minute.
Yeah, exactly right.
Let's take one to hit and
Generally
No, hang on. The agreement was movement only, so you don't get to shoot stuff. No, movement only.
At the end of that,
because you can't really do it if I'm actually and the others, so that could be my just sort of chilling out here.
So you get moving only again.
Yep. We're out of time. We're officially at 0 now.
Keep everything away from us, pretty much.
The agreement was movement only, so movement only it shall be.
I was going to say, I saw dice getting rolled. And I'm like, what's going on?
Oh no, for advances and stuff like that, absolutely. Yeah. So I'll hopefully have a result for you in just a second.
What happens if Dan only has a wrap over here? Does he get to score?
No, because it takes a full turn.
Even if it's
No, because it's not. The card's not in play. Card has to be in play.
Does that count as him not able to score?
No, because discard doesn't work this way anymore. The discards are done specifically as a.
So, but if he can't score the card, does he not have to destroy?
No, you have to play it to discard it now. So all that Dan's going to be doing now is contesting objectives and making sure he scores more, basically.
12 shots for every vehicle, and it's probably always going to be
There is a strategy. They've got no CP left anyway.
Dan's less to move.
So he's got obsec that'll contest that from your captain.
Yeah, I think sometimes there's always whenever I like you'll sometimes and then the last couple of turns make it look like on the board. So
You got offset here.
Yes. And this is
Are they not troops?
No, Mandrakes are not troops, sadly. So Dan's gonna.
Yeah, and then it's sort of,
Is Dan scoring line breaker?
Yeah.
I want to go.
I'll advance the
6.
20.
Sisters are like crazy violations.
No, that's not yours.
No, in line. That's in your starting.
No,
9 outside.
I've had this happen before. I don't remember whether it's within 12 inches of your board edge or whether it's your deployment zone, and it changed in a game at one point there. Whatever. Line breaker isn't.
This is just old school, though. It's in there. Always.
No, it's actually in chapter approved. It's been updated. So line breaker.
No, nobody got first right.
One model in the enemy's deployment zone. So it's not within 12. So yeah.
I can't mulligan at this point, though, can I?
No, that's only at the start of the game.
Fucking defends.
This is why you change your deck.
I did. Kill once. Oh man.
Gonna be close.
Nah, he's on it.
Yeah, just drop one.
That's good for me, not good for Dan.
No.
If you lose, I win.
Yeah.
So Smash Captain.
8 kill plus librarian, smash captain, stalker.
I haven't seen anything about it, so I feel like that might be something we need to even worry about.
So there's the
There's one scout, stalker squad, green squad.
I get it as 8.
Librarian and librarian's red. Well, okay, that's it.
2 Stalker squads, the Scout squad, then the big squad, the initial squad. Then, actually, did he get the big squad?
One librarian. I didn't lose the bet, so I only lost
Oh,
one.
okay.
Yeah, the librarian, smash captain, and
It's
red.
7.
Dan, now the game's over. Would you have not moved that venom and then shot the troops out? Like
Not allowed to shoot.
No, I mean not shoot. I mean like move the troops out to.
No, you have to disembark before you move.
Oh, okay. So it's not like a CP thing.
No, Dark Elder don't have that, sadly.
It's called taking impulses.
So what? How many?
I just figured that out now. So I got the
2 Void Ravens, Ravager,
Mm-hmm.
3 Venoms, 4 Venoms,
So he's bugging you.
5, 6, 7. That's 7 so far.
4 Venoms, 2 Void Ravens, Warlord,
Ravager,
Ravager, which Cavalry Warriors squad. Yeah, which is
so that one in there.
Then the Venoms count for 2 because they have troops in them.
yeah. I'm counting troops as well. That's it. Yeah, just double check that.
So how many was it?
1, 2, 3, 4 Venoms, 2 Void Ravens, Ravager, Cavalry, Witch, Warlord.
Yeah.
That's it.
How many Cavalites did you put down there, Dan?
There's 1 unit here.
And there's 1 unit there.
Yeah, and I've only got 3 troops.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And I got Witch unit there.
And a Witch unit there.
Witch unit there.
So you lost 1 of each troop.
Yes.
And I've not lost a subject or anything, so yeah, that's all good. So we got 1, 2, 3.
No, I don't know. I don't hear it.
10.
I already have my trophy. I lost it. Oh yeah. Didn't have a fucking trophy.
That's right.
I've got the scorecard here, so why don't we quickly drop it in? So
14 Maelstrom.
10 Maelstrom. What do you count?
Count that was 14.
10.
what about the 4 pillars? Who scored what there?
I got a hold ball once, kill more once, and that's it. Otherwise, that's it.
Yeah, but you got
I got hold more once. There was only once when I got hold more, and that's when you accidentally moved off that objective.
Must be on turn. I must have got Killmore on somewhere.
They're all cues, and he had them on the old
Considering.
You had to.
I must have.
I think you got it twice, probably.
So 4 plus 1.
How many did you give up?
10 kills and 1 kill.
7. So yeah, 2.
So it's 2 to 3.
2 for 4 kills, 3.
I gave Shane some.
Kill points 7, 10. Maelstrom.
Not the archer, just that. Hey man, you got more than you.
Line breakers, slay the warlord, you got line breakers.
And no one got first strike, which gives me a 22 to 13 total. 15-5 win to Jordan.
Nice.
Wait for these guys.
All right.
Cheers, man.
And that is it. We'll cut the stream off and we'll be back. I'll probably do a drive time on the way home tonight to chat about things, so you can check me out on Facebook in about half an hour. See you guys.
Oh, not bad.